If we lose, we'll be tried as war criminals. Major General Curtis E. LeMay, United States Army Air Forces, spring of 1945. The words were not a warning, they were an acknowledgement. It is late afternoon, March 9th, 1945. At North Field on the island of Guam, a single B-29 Superfortress lifts off a crushed coral runway. Then another, one every 50 seconds, more than 270 of them in a line that takes hours to complete, all turning north toward Japan. By the time those planes turn for home, more people will be dead than at Hiroshima. More than Nagasaki, more than Dresden, in 6 hours, in one city, in one night. Almost no one today can tell you what happened. That night had its origins in a weapon. The B-29 Superfortress was not simply an aircraft. It was a bet, the most expensive single weapons system of the entire war. $3.7 billion, more costly than the Manhattan Project. Over 1.4 million engineering man-hours to design the prototypes alone. General Henry Hap Arnold, Chief of the Army Air Forces, had staked his career and his institution on it. Arnold believed that air power could win the war against Japan without a land invasion. And he needed the B-29 to prove it. There were 4 heart attacks along the way. The pressure had a human face. The B-29s first reached Japan from the Mariana Islands in November 1944, and almost immediately, the campaign ran into something no one had planned for. At 23,000 feet over the Japanese home islands, a river of wind moved at speeds American planners had never anticipated, sometimes exceeding 250 miles per hour. The bombs dropped from altitude were swept sideways, falling harmlessly into the sea. Aircraft fighting the headwind burned through fuel at a rate that left crews ditching into the Pacific on the way home. Flying from China, B-29s were hitting their assigned targets only 5% of the time. $500 million of aircraft, and the results were barely measurable. Someone was going to get fired. That was certain. The man who got fired first was not a failure. That matters. Brigadier General Haywood Possum Hansel had helped build the intellectual framework of American strategic bombing doctrine before the war. He believed, with genuine conviction, that targeting factories and transportation nodes was both more effective and more ethical than burning neighborhoods. Precision, not area attack. The military objective, not the city around it. He had made it, in his own words, a lifelong personal crusade, the most humane and effective means of achieving military success. He was regarded among colleagues as a superb staff officer, though some doubted his temperament as a combat commander. Arnold gave him the command anyway. From his headquarters in the Marianas, Hansel flew his missions. The jet stream fought him. The weather fought him. Results were sparse, but he held his position, daylight precision attacks as designed. The problem was in Washington. Major General Loris Norstad, who had replaced Hansel on the air staff, did not share his convictions. Norstad wanted firebombing. He wanted Japanese cities burned. As early as November 1943, that approach had been circulating in planning circles. Norstad saw Hansel not as a commander executing a difficult mission, but as an impediment. Hansel's reluctance toward night incendiary attacks, his persistence with daylight precision doctrine. These were not strategic disagreements. They were obstacles, and Norstad treated them accordingly. On January 6, 1945, Norstad flew out to Hansel's headquarters and relieved him of command. There was nothing gradual about it. Hansel declined to stay on as his replacement's deputy. He boarded a transport and flew home to Arizona, where he would spend the rest of the war training pilots. Here is what no one knew at the time. Hansel's precision campaign had already achieved one of its central objectives. Japan's aircraft engine industry had begun to disperse, inefficiently, frantically, to get great cost to its own production capacity, in direct response to his attacks. The strategy was working. Washington ran out of patience roughly 3 months before anyone could see it. His plane lifts off into the January sky. The rest of the story happens without him. The man who replaced Hansel arrived with 2 stars on his collar and a cigar on his lip. Curtis LeMay was 38 years old, born in Columbus, Ohio, 70 miles from the Wright brothers' bicycle shop in Dayton, 3 years after the first flight at Kitty Hawk. He had worked the graveyard shift in a steel mill to put himself through Ohio State. He had none of Hansel's intellectual elegance and no interest in acquiring it. What he had was results. A chest of medals from the European theater, efficiency reports that commanded respect, based on the particular quality of a man who looked at a problem and asked only what it would take to solve it. Early in the war, Bell's palsy had partially paralyzed one side of his face. The cigar hid it. What remained was a permanent scowl, readable as cold calculation, and men found it unnerving. His crews called him Iron Ass. Not affectionately exactly, but not without acknowledgement. LeMay inherited a command producing almost no results. He ran his own diagnosis. The jet stream was real and consistent. There were, on average, 7 clear days each month over Japan. High-altitude precision bombing with the tools available was structurally unreliable. He looked at the evidence and arrived at a conclusion that was tactically rational and carried consequences. He understood clearly. Fly low. Fly at night. Unstrip the defensive gun positions from the aircraft to carry more bombs, and use fire, not fire against specific factories, but fire against the city itself. His advisors told him Japan had no serious low-level anti-aircraft capability. His advisors told him night fighters would struggle at low altitude in darkness. The decision that looked insane on paper rested on those 2 assumptions. He did not bring this decision to his superiors for approval. On March 8, 1945, LeMay notified the 20th Air Force headquarters of his new tactics. He chose March 8th specifically because he knew Arnold and Norstad would be absent that day. He was not seeking permission. He was absorbing the risk himself, willing to be fired, willing to face whatever came if the raid failed, and protecting his commander from the fallout if it did. And he later said he had wanted to protect Arnold from blame, and he understood, with precision, what he was ordering. If we lose, he said, we'll be tried as war criminals. He was not speaking hypothetically. He knew exactly what the gap was between what would be written in the mission report and what would happen on the ground. The target was Tokyo. Not all of Tokyo. USAAF planners had worked for months on the question of which neighborhoods would burn most efficiently. They consulted maps produced by the Office of Strategic Services, which ranked Tokyo's wards by their susceptibility to fire. For data on building density and structural composition, the analysts drew on an unlikely source: pre-war risk assessments produced by Japanese insurance companies. The science of it was meticulous, for they settled on a rectangular zone in northeastern Tokyo, approximately 4 miles by 3, bisected by the Sumida River. Asakusa, Honjo, Fukagawa. These wards formed the heart of what Tokyoites called Shitamachi, the low city, the working city, craftsmen, laborers, fishermen, shopkeepers. It was one of the most densely populated urban areas in the world. Roughly 1.1 million people living in a neighborhood where 98% of the buildings were wood and paper. Tokyo had 18 concrete air raid shelters. Each held 5,000 people, 90,000 total, for a city of 4.3 million. The self-dug holes that residents had scraped into the earth near their homes, the bokugo, 1 to 2 meters deep, offered nothing against fire. There were no subway tunnels to shelter in. By March 1945, roughly 2 million people had already left the city, and the ones who remained were there because they had nowhere else to go, or because they believed the wooden houses in the neighborhood they knew were worth staying for. Japan had prepared for a major night attack. The country's 10th Air Division had been drilling for exactly this scenario since late 1944, but their anti-aircraft batteries were calibrated for targets at high altitude, above 20,000 feet. Their night fighters were trained to intercept bombers there. LeMay's planes were coming in at between 5,000 and 9,000 feet. Japan's defenses were aimed at the wrong piece of sky. The ordnance had been engineered for this. The E-46 cluster bombs, each releasing 38 napalm-carrying bomblets that punched through thin rooftops and ignited 3 to 5 seconds later. The M47 100-pound oil gel and white phosphorus bombs were designed to ignite on contact. The bombs had been tested years earlier at a purpose-built replica Japanese village at the Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah, and the tests had been decisive. The night of March 9th had been chosen because the winds were right. Surface winds at 45 to 67 miles per hour, blowing from the southwest. The target zone was placed upwind of the city center, so the flames the bombs started would be driven through the densest neighborhoods below. The people of Shitamachi had no knowledge of any of this. They went to sleep. The first B-29 lifts off from Guam's North Field just after 5:30 in the afternoon of March 9th. One every 50 seconds after that. From Guam, Saipan, Tinian, a procession of silver aircraft climbing north over the Pacific, each carrying 7 tons of incendiaries, each flying low and without defensive guns, in the dark. LeMay told his crews, "You're going to deliver the biggest firecracker the Japanese have ever seen." Air raid sirens wail in Tokyo around 10:30 that night. Most of the city pays little attention. There have been small raids before. Probes, nuisance attacks. Haruyo Nihei, 8 years old that night, had spent the day playing with friends. Her mother called her in for a simple meal, and they went to bed. It was, she later recalled, just another ordinary day. The Pathfinders arrive over Tokyo at 12:08 in the morning of March 10th. Skies clear, visibility 10 miles, wind driving hard from the southwest. The first planes come in from opposite directions and drop their loads into the heart of Shitamachi. The incendiaries burst immediately. When the Pathfinders turn for home, below them, burning in the dark, it is an enormous X. The main force of 282 aircraft simply aims at the center of the fire. The low-altitude approach meets almost nothing. The batteries that should have filled the sky with flak are aimed at targets 20,000 feet higher. The night fighters searching for B-29s are searching at the wrong altitude. The formation crosses the coast, and the coast is quiet. Within 2 hours, the individual fires exceed anything Tokyo's brigades can respond to. The heat reaches 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Asphalt liquefies. The fires merge and drive before the wind, moving faster than people can run. From miles back in the formation, a B-29 crewman named Richard Bale can almost read a newspaper in his cockpit by the light of what is happening below. Gunner Ed Lawson stands over an open bomb bay door at low altitude. No oxygen mask, none, and what he experiences stays with him for the rest of his life. "Can you imagine standing in front of an open bomb bay door and smelling a city burn up?" he later says. "The smell was nauseating. I've never smelled anything like it since, and I don't want to." The flames are visible from 100 miles away. Below those flames is Yoshiko Hashimoto. She is 24 years old in the Sumida district with her husband, her infant, and her family. The fire is everywhere around them now. Not approaching, not coming, already there. The river is the only way out. Her father tells her to jump with the baby. The water is ice cold. It is March. She has an infant in her arms and she hesitates. Her mother says nothing. She reaches up and removes the protective hood from her own head. She places it on Yoshiko's head. She looks into her daughter's eyes. Yoshiko jumps. "I managed to float to a raft and placed my baby on it," she later recalled. Some burning logs were drifting by. I dipped my head into the water and put some water on my baby. His eyes were wide open. I was worried he might be dying. Around her, others cling to the raft. The Sumida River is clogged with people, with burning debris, with the dead. Her mother is still on the bank, without the hood. Yoshiko and her baby survive. Her mother, father, and sister do not. Shizuyo Takeuchi is 14 that night, already displaced. Her own home had burned in February. Her family is sheltering at a relative's house near the river. Her father does something most people around him are not doing. He leads the family away from the crowd, across the river, against the current of everyone else. That decision saves them. No, Takeuchi walks through the night under a sky that is entirely red. In the morning, she sees two blackened figures in the street. She looks more closely. One is a woman. The shape beside her, what she first takes for a lump of coal, is a baby. Orange sunsets, she says decades later, still make her uncomfortable. A pool near the Sumida holds more than 1,000 corpses. People who crowded in as the fire approached and could not survive the heat even in the water. Others squeeze into sewer pipes. The Sumida River itself, boiling. When dawn comes, Katsumoto Saotome walks through what remains of Shitamachi. He is a boy. He's looking at streets full of bodies. Burned corpses so unidentifiable, he later writes. You couldn't even tell if they were male or female. And then, among them, something still. An infant, untouched by flames, and dead in its mother's arms. At 2:37 in the morning, sirens announce the all clear. The B-29s are already on their way home. 16 square miles of central Tokyo are ash. LeMay's official mission report states that the purpose of the raid was to destroy industrial and strategic targets, not to bomb indiscriminately civilian populations. This language is in the record. So is the methodology. Maps ranked by flammability, insurance company assessments of neighborhood susceptibility, ordnance tested for years against wood and paper structures, a night selected for its wind speed, a target zone placed upwind so the flames would do the work. Those two things existed simultaneously in the same institution, signed by the same men. General Arnold sends LeMay a message. Nugget says, "This mission shows your crews have the guts for anything." The authorization that was never formally sought has now been granted in the form of praise. By the following day, LeMay's new tactics are standard USAAF procedure. Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, Nagoya again, all in the same week. Japan's Imperial Headquarters issues a communique on March 10th stating that only various places within the city were set afire. Rumors move faster than the official line. The government changes course, orders the media to emphasize the scale of the destruction, to use it as propaganda to motivate hatred of America. It produces the opposite effect. Radio Tokyo calls it slaughter bombing. Most Japanese civilians conclude the war is going worse than their government has admitted. The death toll has no single number. The American official estimate, 88,000 killed. Tokyo's fire department, 97,000 dead. The Metropolitan Police, 124,711 casualties, 286,358 buildings destroyed. Some researchers have placed the true figure closer to 200,000. The chaos of the aftermath made counting impossible. The deliberate suppression made it worse, and the fires that moved through Shitamachi that night moved faster than any accounting could follow. The conservative consensus holds at roughly 100,000. In the years that follow, LeMay does not appear troubled by the arithmetic. We scorched and boiled and baked to death more people in Tokyo on that night of March 9th to 10th than went up in vapor at Hiroshima, he says. He is not apologizing. He is not wrong. The campaign continued. By the war's end, American B-29s had struck 66 Japanese cities. 178 square miles burned. and 330,000 people dead from the bombing campaign overall, nearly 500,000 wounded, 8.5 million homeless. Tokyo suffered worst. Across multiple raids, 56 square miles of the capital reduced to rubble and ash. In August 1945, 2 atomic bombs fell on Japan. Historians have debated since whether they were necessary. LeMay himself believed they were redundant. His campaign had already made clear what continued resistance would cost. Some historians have observed something else. By August, the mass killing of Japanese civilians from the air had been happening for 5 months. Neither President Truman nor his senior military advisors experienced the atomic bomb as a moral threshold. The threshold had already been crossed. In March, over Shitamachi, with napalm and wind. The survivors of that night asked for something. The Japanese courts rejected their claims. Citizens, the courts found, were required to endure suffering in wartime. In 2020, a group of lawmakers drafted a proposal for a one-time payment of 500,000 yen per survivor, $3,380. The proposal stalled. No aid was provided. No acknowledgement comparable to what atomic bomb survivors received was ever extended to the people of Shitamachi. Yoshiko Hashimoto survived. Her baby survived. Her mother, father, and sister did not. She never received anything. Katsumoto Saotome, the boy who walked through Shitamachi at dawn, became a writer. He spent the rest of his life collecting testimonies, refusing to let what had happened shrink into a footnote. He helped found a library in Koto Ward, the center of the Tokyo raids and war damage. Documents, literature, recorded testimonies. At every account, he and the Association to Record the Tokyo Air Raid had gathered over decades. He died in 2022 at the age of 90. The library still stands. In 1967, construction workers digging a new subway line in the Fukugawa district reached a depth of 15 meters below the street and found the remains of an air raid shelter. Inside it were 6 skeletons, still close together. 2 were children, 4 were adults. Burn marks on the bones, a rusted steel helmet, a decayed water bucket. One of the adult skeletons was cradling 2 Buddhist memorial tablets in its arms. The posture was unmistakable. People who had pressed together in the dark and the heat, holding the only things they thought worth holding and had not gotten out. 22 years, 15 meters below a street in Tokyo, still in that posture. Between 1948 and 1951, now the ashes of 105,400 people killed in the Tokyo raids were interred at Yokohamacho Park in Sumida Ward. A memorial was opened there in March 2001, 56 years after the night. In 1964, the Japanese government awarded Curtis LeMay the First-Class Order of the Rising Sun, one of the nation's highest honors, for his contributions to building Japan's post-war air self-defense force. He accepted it. The most destructive air raid in human history remains, 80 years later, one of the least remembered. The Japanese called it the Night of the Black Snow, for the ash that fell over the city in the days that followed, coating the ruins and the living alike. Most of those who survived it are gone now. The ones who tried to be paid for what was done to them were told the law owed them nothing. The man who ordered it received a medal.